Here we are, text 37, and then a lot of the texts, they don't have purport until we get to, I'm sorry, not text 37, text 40. Wait, text 41? Hold on. I'm confused here. Hold on, give me 1 second. I had it marked here. 1 second. Yeah, so text 38 to 43. So I'll just read the Sanskrit and English, and then when we get to the 43, then we'll read the purport. So text 38, this chapter is entitled, The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. Ashapan kupita evam yuvam vasam nacharhata rajastamobhyam rahite padamule madhudvisha papishtam ashurim yonim palishau yatam asvata. So the translation, thus checked by the doorkeepers Jai and Vijay, Sanandana and the other great sages very angrily cursed them. You two foolish doorkeepers, they said, being agitated by the material qualities of passion and ignorance, you are unfit to live at the shelter of Madhudvisha's lotus feet, which are free from such modes. It would be better for you to go immediately to the material world and take your birth in a family of most sinful asuras. Text 39. Evam shabdao svabhavanat patantau tau kripalubi proktau punajanmabhirvam tribir lokaya kalpatam. Translation. While Jai and Vijay, thus cursed by the sages, were falling to the material world, they were addressed as follows by the same sages, who were very kind to them. O doorkeepers, after 3 births, you will be able to return to your positions in Vaikunta, for then the duration of the curse will have ended. Text 40. Yagyate taudite putro daitya danavavandito hiranyakashipur jeshto hiranyaksho nujastata. These 2 associates of the Lord, Jaya and Vijaya, later descended to the material world, taking birth as the 2 sons of Diti, Hiranyakashipu being the elder, and Hiranyaksha being, and Hiranyaksha the younger. They were very much respected by the Daityas and Danavas, demoniac species. Hato Hiranyakashipur Harina Singharupina Hiranyakshodarodhare Bibrata Shaukaram Vapu. Translation. Appearing as Nrsimhadev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Hari killed Hiranyakashipu. When the Lord delivered planet Earth, which had fallen in the Garbhodaka ocean, Hiranyaksha tried to hinder him, and then the Lord, as Varaha, killed Hiranyakashipu. Text 42. Hiranyakashipu putram praladam keshavapriyam jigamshur akaronana yatana mrityuhetave. Hiranyakashipu, okay, sorry, translation. Desiring to kill his son Prahlad, who was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu tortured him in many ways. X43. Tam sarvam bhutatma bhutam prashantam samadarsanam Bhagavat tejasa sprishtam nasakno dantum udyamai. So we'll do the word for word translation, and this one has a purport. Would anybody else like to chant the verse here? Okay, we will continue. So word for word translation. Tam him sarva bhuta atma bhutam, the soul and all entities, prasantam, peaceful and without hatred, etc. Samadarsanam, equal to everyone. Bhagavat tejasa, with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavat tejasa, with the power of the Supreme sorry, yes, I read that. Okay, with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sprishtam protected, not Ashaknot was able, Hantum to kill, Udyamai by great attempts and various weapons. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord, the Supersoul of all living entities, is sober, peaceful, and equal to everyone. Since the great devotee Prahlad was protected by the Lord's potency, Hiranyakashipu was unable to kill him in spite of endeavoring to do so in various ways. Purport. In this verse, the word Sarva Bhutatma Bhutam is very significant. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Pradesharjuna Tishtati. The Lord is equally situated in the core of everyone's heart. Thus, he cannot be envious of anyone or friendly to anyone. For him, everyone is the same. Although he is sometimes seen to punish someone, this is exactly like a father's punishing his child for the child's welfare. The Supreme Lord's punishment is also a manifestation of the Lord's equality. Therefore, the Lord is described as Prasantam Samadarsanam. Although the Lord has to execute his will properly, he is equiposed in all circumstances. He is equally disposed toward everyone. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hi. Hi Krishna dear devotees. Good morning. So this is exciting part, getting into this amazing pastime of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimhadev. And as we know in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this particular portion of Bhagavatam of The pastime of Prahlad Maharaj was read again and again. You can correct me if I'm wrong. My memory tends to fail as far as details. But he read this part again and again about the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. Even the amazing qualities of Prahlad Maharaj were displayed in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the quality of one who's, very compassionate. And so the devotees are very dear to the Lord. And as we've heard before, the Lord comes to protect his devotees and to annihilate the demons. And here, in this purport, Prabhupada is emphasizing the importance of this aspect of the Lord, that he's equally disposed, in this sense, he's equally situated in the core of everyone's heart. And we hear in Gita also how, and then also in Sri Upanishad, how the Lord is fulfilling everyone's desires. So according to one's desires, the Lord reciprocates. So we've heard from great devotees and also within the scriptures that the Lord, if one desires to forget him, he arranges that one will forget him. If one desires to remember him, the Lord also helps him to remember. So our desire is a very strong factor in our life. And as aspiring devotees, it's very important to have the desires according to what Krishna desires. And here we see in this amazing pastime of Jai and Vijay, somehow by the desire of the Lord's will to fight, he arranges through his internal potency of Yoga Maya to have these exalted beings descend to this earth and take birth 3 times as demons. And so even as demons, they're extremely powerful and extremely knowledgeable. The amount of power that they have as demons is even surpasses all the other powerful personalities as demigods and like that, which is why they were wreaking havoc. And by the Lord's arrangement, along with his desires to fight, the Lord also has desires to reciprocate. And so to reciprocate with his pure devotees, he performs these pastimes so we can meditate and glorify him. He reciprocates with his devotees, like dear Prahlad, who was praying to him. He wanted to protect him from his demoniac father, Hiranyakashipu, who was trying to kill him in many different ways, trying to poison him, trying to throw him under elephants, trying to throw him off a cliff, trying to put him in a pit of venomous snakes. So like this, in many ways, he was trying to kill him, not just like subtly, but in very intense ways. And every time Prahlad Maharaj became protected, he was protected, and Hiranyakashipu became more and more upset, realizing that he was not the most powerful, which for a demon, of course, that's a great insult, to feel less empowered and not the center of everything and the supreme. And of course, there was the inimical feelings because of his hatred towards any aspect of Vishnu, because Vishnu killed his brother Hiranyaksha. And so Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, being exalted beings from the spiritual world, they were acting under the Yogamaya potency. So they were also acting in order to fulfill the desires of the Supreme Lord. For the ordinary jiva, those that are not in the God category, those of us who are in the category of, jivatma, which is we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and we are qualitatively similar in our qualities, that we are Satchit Ananda, we are eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. Although our quantitative position is we're much smaller and infinitesimal in comparison to the Supreme. So therefore, we are bound to come under the influence of our association because we are so small, and the Lord is so great, and his energies are far greater than ourselves. And so we are subjugated to the Lord's potencies. And when we are subjugated in love, then we are happily situated in serving in love. But when we are trying to go against that nature that we have as eternal servants, then we try to artificially take the position of the Lord as the enjoyer, controller, and therefore we're put under subjugation of the Lord's external energy, which is stringent laws to, as we've heard, to help us learn the lesson that we are not in our natural position, nor acting artificially. And so we get a lot of painful reactions. So I was thinking how to see the difference here of our desire, the desire of these great demons. And, from the outside perspective, it can look like, okay, well, these big demons, they're fighting with the Lord. And unless one knows that they were devotees previously, one would just think like, why is the Lord killing them and protecting this son? Like, why is he acting, so in a way that's more, favorable to this person? Like, why is he acting, you could say, some people would think in an envious way towards Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha. But as devotees, when we hear from the scriptures and the acharyas, that actually the Lord is reciprocating with their desires. So there's two desires going on, is the desires of themselves as devotees, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, their desires devotees to always satisfy and please the Lord. So they're put under Yogamaya to enact this whole pastime so they can fight. So all the meanwhile, they're still acting in a form that's pleasing to the Lord. Although externally, as demons, they are doing things like, specifically, Hiranyakashipu is trying to kill this exalted Mahajan. So as a demon, he's enacting that desire to, be the supreme. And this is all under the Yogamaya potency. Whereas an individual, when they're under the external, which is the Mahamaya potency, it's in complete illusion. It has nothing to do with the Lord's pleasure in terms of the individual living entity trying to please the Lord somehow by acting in Mahamaya. So all of the desires under that influence are illusory. And so therefore, the results or the reciprocation of that is further entanglement into illusion. And we can see Krishna gives very direct instructions in Bhagavad Gita, what is our position and what we should be desiring. And he says, if you just remember me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances to me, like this. He says, surely you will come to me. So Krishna is directly instructing us that we should think of him, worship him, and become his devotee, which means we should meditate on him favorably. We should develop our attitude towards Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Although we do hear of the intensity of these demons in their intense meditation on Krishna. And so we follow the footsteps of Narada Muni in respects that we feel a great sense of need to have the desire to have such an intense focus on the Lord, just like they had. Of course, it would be in a favorable way. So the Lord is actually equally situated. He has nothing to do with anything other than his loving dealings with his devotees. And essentially all living entities, they're part and parcel of Krishna, and they're all very dear to Krishna. And so Krishna, as a loving father, here Prabhupada is pointing out that it is also a manifestation of his equality when there is punishment. So Krishna doesn't directly get involved with those that are not on the path of bhakti, those that are still desiring to, perform within this external energy, the modes of nature. They want to forget Krishna. Basically, the ones that are cultivating and associating in demoniac qualities or demoniac ways, according to Bhagavad Gita, that's someone who thinks that, the all in all of existence, the cause of all is this sexual desire and the manifestation of, or the reproduction of such byproducts. And there's many descriptions how one thinks that they're so great, that they will get so much, they will achieve so much, and that they're the cause of it all. Like this, in many ways, we hear different qualities that someone has when they're of the demoniac nature. And as we can also hear, we just had the celebration of Janmashtami in that beginning portion where Kamsa, he wants to, they're on the chariot, and you have this amazing, beautiful ceremony of this gorgeous devotee princess is getting married, Devaki, to Vasudeva. And her brother, Kamsa, is riding them on the chariot. And then the divine voice comes and tells Kamsa that, he'll be killed by her eighth son. And at that moment, he wants to immediately sever her head off. And of course, we know that Vasudeva is begging Kamsa, and they're having a whole conversation back and forth. And Kamsa is showing his prowess of his philosophy. And there in that section in Krishna book, Prabhupada is explaining how it's not surprising that a demon would act like this, that even in their own sister's wedding, on their wedding day, would try to kill him, what to speak of a powerful Kshatriya taking on to kill a woman who has no weapons in hand. And like this, so many reasons and examples can be given to how wrong this situation was from a dharmic perspective. And Prabhupada was pointing out this is not a surprising behavior of a demon because this is their nature. So from someone who is conditioned like myself, and you see, like, you're obvious, if there's a desire that the good will overcome the evil, there's a sense of duality still there, that yes, those that are good should win and those that are bad should lose. And Bhagavatam is taking us a step further to see it's not just a principle of dharma, it's not just a religious um, sentiment, but there's a much deeper aspect of Krishna's reciprocation to every living entity according to their desires, and also reciprocating not just in a way that would seemingly be, oh, everything's nice and I want to live at the expense of others, so I'm going to get everything I want. But Krishna also arranges for the punishment of those that are desiring accordingly, whether it be they're acting out of order, they're hurting devotees, like that. So Krishna arranges that they become punished so that they can also, return back to the spiritual world. Um, and in this case, this was Hiranyakashipu's Leela with the Lord, that he performed this pastime, and then after 3 births go back to the spiritual world. But we have about 15 minutes, so there's other things that could be said, but I'll stop here if anybody wants to add anything or any reflections or corrections at this point. Okay, nobody has any comment, then I can continue here for a little bit more. If there's any corrections, let me know. So I was also meditating on this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. And then this, there was this recent showing that came out on the movies. All the devotees are talking about it, of the pastimes of Nrsingadev, this Maha Avatar. And I was just thinking how when you read Bhagavatam and you hear all these amazing pastimes, then it's so much easier to appreciate and absorb into these stories, because I'm thinking, wow, so many people now can get an opportunity to have a sense of this pastime. And then also one Mataji, who was it, Prabhupada disciple, her name is, she was one of Govinda Dasi Mataji. She was saying how just the fact that Lord Nrsingadev's name, when it's spread throughout the land, it offers a great amount of auspiciousness. Even just remembering the Lord in his pastimes is so auspicious. And this propagation of Krishna and his pastimes in the form of his avatars is also it's also very auspicious, and is much needed today. And I was also, it always bewilders me personally when I hear of so many of the problems going on in terms of, the potential world war and the genocide and all of those things. And there's definitely a great demoniac influence. So to think that, from without being a devotee, it was very difficult, at least as a teenager, when I would hear, because this has been going on for many decades. It's nothing new in terms of the atrocities that have been going on in this material world. I remember even 30, 40 years ago, there were still parts of the world genocide going on, although now we have the internet and we have social media, so we hear more about these things, but these things are not new. There's for so many generations, there are demoniac leaders who have been doing horrendous things. And this is part of the material world. And it's a very hard pill for me to have swallowed, to accept that this is even in existence. And as I read more and more, it becomes very clear that there is an arrangement for these individuals. And just sitting the other day in the reading with Devamrita Swami, where he read in the purport, it was in the culmination to the 10th canto, I believe he was reading from the 9th canto, how Prabhupada was saying that these demoniac leaders, they are allowed to come up to a certain, maybe I'm not saying it exactly, but I'm paraphrasing. The understanding is that they are allowed to gain power and things like that, by the Lord's arrangement, so they can take each other out, basically. So the Lord, when he kills demons, personally, there's usually a very intimate, deeper connection in terms of mercy with that particular personality that's playing in that demoniac position. And these days, Prabhupada would say, these days, there's so many demons, but they're not big demons like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. They're all small demons. And so therefore, Krishna has different ways through his external energy that they get taken care of, whether it's through them fighting each other or through natural disasters. And so like this, Krishna doesn't personally have to deal with them. Although the great fortune of someone coming in contact with Krishna, even if they're being killed by Krishna, is they achieve some form of liberation. And we've heard about that from previous purports about the different types of liberation and the different positions of what one can achieve according to their consciousness. And so this equality of the Lord is such a great thing, because here we can see that it's a reciprocal thing. We're not completely robots under the discretion of the Lord, that regardless of our desires, we have to just be a demon or a devotee. But actually the Lord reciprocates in our hearts. So if we have desires that are demoniac, he will reciprocate. If we have devotee desires, he will reciprocate. And of course, the Lord is recommending that we be devotees for our own benefit. And so here Prahlad Maharaj, one of the great, he's considered one of the Mahajans. He is a Mahajan, and he teaches us by his example that one quality that's very pleasing as a devotee is the aspect of that mercy that he takes on from the Lord as well, that he is so kind and merciful. I always think of this pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where the Lord is giving his darshan to all the devotees. It's the forgive me if it's the incorrect word, but I think it's called the Mahaprakash Leela, where he calls in each devotee individually, and he starts to he allows that individual to see him according to their heart's desire. So each devotee has a particular form of the Lord in which they relate to him most dear to their heart. So like this, different devotees were called in, and Lord Chaitanya would reveal an aspect of the Supreme Lord according to that devotee's desire and devotion. And then it was, I think Vasudev. Yes, Vasudev Dat. So Vasudev Dat, he's Prahlad Maharaj. But when he appears in Lord Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's Leela, he's Vasudev Dat. And there was a whole pastime where Lord Chaitanya, forgive me, I get confused between, no, okay, so it wasn't, yeah, Mukunda Dat Prabhu was the other one. So Vasudev Dat, he was desiring that, there's a whole lead up to it, but I won't go into it because I'm not familiar with all the details. But his desire in the end was that he was praying to the Lord that may he suffer or may he go through so many hells so that every entity in this entire creation can go back to the spiritual world. And he, with all his heart, he sincerely meant it. He wasn't just saying it. And Mahaprabhu was feeling so touched by his mood that he was crying, and he said, I'm not surprised, my dear Vasudev Dat, because you are Prahlad Maharaj. And he says, you don't have to suffer so many lifetimes in hell. He says, just by your desire, all the entities in this universe are already liberated. Amen. So this is the greatness of Prahlad Maharaj. And the amazing thing too, in connection to Vasudev, that is here in Gita Nagari, in the Samadhi of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he gifted this, it's like a little piece of, I think it's wood or dirt, I can't remember exactly, but he has it there in a little box next to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj in the Samadhi, which is from the place of the Samadhi of Vasudev Dat. And so I've heard from different devotees that also His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was very much in that same mood of Prahlad Maharaj, and very, very much coming under that line from Nrsingadev, in that mood of, just living and working to help conditioned living entities so they can return back to the spiritual world. So I thought this was amazing connection. And yeah, I'll just got 3 minutes. If anybody would like to add or subtract or comment, please do. Yes, Krishna Surya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the class, so full of different just reminders, very good, helpful reminders. So my question is, sometimes on the path of becoming a true devotee, sometimes it's very easy, I'll speak for myself, to be engaged in devotional service and sometimes think about Krishna after. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that service for Krishna. Yay, I get some mercy and some blessings. But you're speaking about what is our true desire in our heart. And my desire really is to think about Krishna 24/7. Like that is That sounds like pure bliss to me. So, are there any practical ways on how to bridge the gap between the desire and then, just our natural material mind? It goes elsewhere. Even if we're doing service, sometimes it wanders off and then we remember. But how can we really get to that level where even some of Krishna's enemies are always thinking about Krishna and they get, some sort of mercy from that. So how can we as devotees, the better side of being an enemy, how can we just think about Krishna constantly, even engaged in devotional service?
That's that's always the desire, Prabhu. And keep having the desire, and one day it'll happen. Because that's the whole point of our whole process. Prabhupada in Gita, so many times, he's giving instructions, various ways in which we can remember Krishna, various ways which we can act towards remembering Krishna. And I remember being in New Dwarka in Los Angeles, and His Holiness Mala Bhakta Maharaj, he'd always give these really powerful, sweet classes. And he would always say simple tips. He'd say you could write, of course, tattoos are not necessarily Vaishnav like, but tattoos are a popular thing. But he said you could, while you're at work, whatever you're doing, you could just keep pictures of Krishna, write Krishna's name on your hand, on near your watch, anywhere visible in your peripheral, keep some sort of name or a picture of Krishna. Those are easy ways to kind of bring the mind back. Hearing kirtan, there's so much kirtan. Oh my gosh, unlimited varieties. You could be playing in the background. You could be listening to a lecture while you do stuff, unless that's too distracting. But these are just like practical ways. Prabhupada says the easiest way to remember is to chant Hare Krishna. So even while engaging in activities, we are mentally trying to always be chanting Hare Krishna. Like what this one devotee, Prabhupada disciple, he passed away not too long ago. His Grace Sukadev Prabhu. I do remember how constantly he was chanting. Like even he was between services, he was doing services. If he had to say something, he would say something, and immediately he'd go back to Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Even if it was lightly under his breath, but he was always chanting. And Prabhupada recommends that this is the best way to do it. And so, of course, we're given a whole program of how to increase our memory of chanting. And that's the recommended ways, of course, to develop our mode of goodness, sattva gun. And that comes with practice, because a lot of us are accustomed, at least in Martyaloka, this earth planet is predominated by mode of passion and ignorance. So it's a very strong force, and we have to really push in the beginning. We really got to push to try to rise to that mode of goodness and really beg. So the morning and evening are meant to help us to strive to develop our day, that we can chant. Our focused chanting should be in the morning, and then that will help us throughout the day to remember Krishna as well. But if we're so passionate and in the modes of ignorance, there are practical ways also to rise above that as well. As you're progressing to that point of coming to the mode of goodness on a more consistent level, then and even in the mode of goodness, it's easy to forget if one becomes proud and starts thinking, I'm doing this and that, and forgetting that it's for Krishna, and Krishna's actually, that we're actually acting on behalf of the spiritual master. So even meditating on the pure devotees, remembering the pure devotees, remembering the spiritual master's instructions. That's also remembering Krishna. So, like this, you have various options in which you can remember the Lord and his devotees. So, I hope that helped. Okay, it's past 8 o'clock. I'm not in the temple room. Jivapati Prabhu is asking a question. He said, what is the meaning of Mahajana? Oh, so yeah, Mahajana, there are 12 Mahajanas. So there are these, Maha is great. And then Jana, someone can fill that one in for me. But there are these great devotees. They're the great examples of devotional service. So each one of these exemplary devotees, they are teaching by their example very important lessons. So if you read Nectar of Devotion, there's a description there of these Mahajans. There's also, within the Bhagavatam, there's also descriptions about the Mahajanas and the different, Jana means people. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So these great personalities. So each of them, they come specifically to teach by their example. So there's Prahlad Maharaj, there's Bali Maharaj, there's the Bhishma Dev. Anyone else want to help me here? There's Bhishma Dev, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, the other Mahajanas. It's there in Nectar of Devotion. So you can read about them and their lives and what they taught. But yes, I hope that helped, Jivapati Prabhu. So we will end class here. Thank you, everyone. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam.